Except what's happening, it's VJ Nagasa.
Takeza.
Welcome to another Headspace conversation. Now, I want to start it off with a foundational subject, Takeza. The Headspace deals with the art form of hip hop. But what I've noticed is that when it comes to art, particularly when it comes to the art of music, there is a problematic tendency that we as the fans have. And this is a tendency that has grown out of the fact that music as an art form operates within, the culture of consumerism. In other words, as a musician, the one thing that you are driven to kind of consider is
what the people want.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, is you want to make beautiful art that speaks to who you are, but you also want to make money, you want to make a living, you want to actually be able to feed your family, you want to sustain yourself. And what this survival impulse has done is that it's caused a lot of record labels, especially when record labels aren't a thing now, but if we're looking at the history of music, record labels governed how artists would operate. Because what would happen is that you'd have an artist who'd come under a label, and then the label gives him all of these channels that allow the art to grow, to be known, and for him to have a livelihood out of it. So everything that regarded to the growth of the music, the label was in charge of, and it put artists in very, very difficult predicaments where a lot of times as artist creativity is now under the scrutiny of a label, and that's where music really does somewhat differ
from your traditional other arts like painting, because umuntu wenza lento that is driven by university inspiration yakhe yonke. It's the art comes from within. The spectator or the fan gets to consume it. It's gonna speak to those people who actually can relate.
Exactly.
So it's not about the fans, it's about the art.
Exactly. When a sculptor sits down, they sculpt what's in their heart. When a painter paints, they paint what's in their heart and soul and mind. But now, when a musician goes into the studio, they have to think about trends, they have to think about charts, they have to think about all of these other things, and the heart goes way back into the the darkness, and it's not the first consideration. And what this has done is that it's also made us as the fans entitled, because again, the painter paints for themselves, the sculptor, whatsoever, they do this art for themselves. Effect yayo is a byproduct of their own technique and skill. You go into a gallery, and when you see a painting, there's an element of you have to be taught how to appreciate
art.
And you can't just arrive in a space where you judge it according to solely your experiences. Obviously, as a viewer or a listener, or one who experiences the artwork, one who's interacting with the artwork, we can only judge these things according to our experiences. But I feel like one thing as the fans, especially you hip-hop fans, ignore a lot is the fact that there's also the element of understanding what the artist is trying to do. And as the Headspace, this is a approach we take in when we critique, when we do these album reviews, and when we talk on any topic. We have to always thread this balance of, yes, we have our opinions, you're entitled to your opinion. However, if your opinion is going to be educated and not just an opinion, and you want others to truly value it, funeka uyazi by artist yona izama ukwenza ntoni.
So not reviewing or critiquing an album biasness yakho ngoba mina ndithanda nothile.
You understand?
So if we review a boom bap album, obviously siyamazi befuna ukwenza ntoni, we have to find out ukuthi befuna ukwenzani and une market yakhe. We're not here we're here to appreciate, to only senze abantu abathanda i-pop, like your pop landuka babe more relevant. The space is not this for everyone.
Right.
Not abantu abenza trap. So if you feel like I'm not this trap, so andizuba grand uba mandisubmit into yam mayocheckwa yi-headspace
it ain't even like
ain't
that.
even like that.
It ain't even like that. And it's important that you mentioned that, Kaiser, because I think talking about this will allow for these opinions and for these conversations now to have a basis where we can all judge and be judged on a standard that makes more sense than just me saying I don't like it, it's whack.
Yeah.
But if I understand what that artist is trying to do, then I can say, okay, point one, they were trying to make a club song. Did they succeed? Is the hook catchy? You know, does it really make me want to dance? Because now I'm engaging with the intention of the artist, not just it's not my style.
It's not my style.
Now,
so hence it's whack.
you know, so now as basically hip hop heads, our conversations have to go beyond preference. We have to teach ourselves to understand the artists we are trying to critique, and to also understand the artists we appreciate. Ask yourself, why do you like the things you like? And when you realize that, you also in the same breath realize why you don't like the things you don't like. And then kulula kubana le conversation from a level where we don't have to, you know, to turn these conversations into arguments. Yeah.
So that's why it gets to be an argument. Speaking back to Siegwe's ways and labels.
Yeah.
How many artists was at Kala Corner doing whatever they were doing, we fell in love with, but then we kind of lost them in a way, and then Kabasati Tina, I know Ngoku is a sellout, he fell off, Londoni. So there's a pressure the label, because Ngoku is forced to do something that is not up in this way. And coming back to independent artists evolve. Evolve. So if umuntu bumthanda esenza umculo ongohlobo, now and then he shifts, or kuwe boma yashifta ngoku ubela weba no working. You don't know where his mindset is at.
Right.
So we have to, as Andrew because they work a lot with artist mind.
Yeah.
And things a little bit of Hisham.
Yeah. Shout out to Hisham. One of the local rappers in the scene. He posted a status, basically expressing the fact that a lot of his core fan base, he's noticed people time and time again who come back to him and throw things like, you've fallen off, or you're not the same. And what he basically had to affirm was the fact that, look, if you've fallen off the wagon and you feel like you can't follow my train of music anymore, you're entitled to that. But don't impose that on me as the artist. I'm growing in my way, I'm evolving where I'm going, and if you have lost that sense of affinity, that's your right. But it is also my right as the artist. You know what I mean? To grow. And this is really the core of this conversation. Art and appreciation. How do we appreciate art? Should we learn how to appreciate art? And I say yes. Just like anything, you can't just assume you know how to do it. And I think a lot of the times, because listening to music is effortless, all you have to do is turn on your phone or turn on your system, whatever you're using, and the experience comes to you. And because of that, we think just listening to a song and liking it or not liking it is all it takes, when really there's also a level of thinking, I wonder what inspired this artist. Because when you get to that level, only then will you be able to say anything meaningful, I think, about the art. So if I listen to an album and somebody asks me, Vijay, what did you think about the album? If I'm gonna give an answer that's justifiable, I have to understand what that artist is trying to do. I can simply just say, I didn't like it. But if I wanna go beyond that and really critique the artist, then I have to be a little bit more informed. I have to understand what the artist is trying to do. So this entitlement that we have to artists as music listeners really has to stop. It really has to stop, my people, because what it does is that a lot of artists, because of the pressure to perform to their fans, to please their fans, they themselves end up really submitting to this. And it happens all the time against their own creativity. I've never come across an artist who has sacrificed his own inspirations or her own inspirations for the fans and consistently grown from that. Because what you end up doing is you deny yourself your immediate inspiration and the things that are
Awareness.
because art always comes from what's going on in your life. So if your art comes from the need to please others, obviously it's gonna suck. Because what you're doing is you're going to be listening to the latest trends and trying to figure out what everybody else is doing and how you can adjust to that, and it's really gonna show.
Yeah.
It's gonna show.
Hence now, passion yakho, or this passion of being an artist, le nto uyenzayo, be it hip hop kwantoni, iphela ngoku ingabiso passion ngoku iba 9 to 5. Nezala nto ba it's the same dynamics as 9 to 5, but tingena ubani kufuneka uphume ubani. There are these rules. You have to now you are not free. So my job le way.
No doubt. And so I really think in the context of how do we appreciate hip hop, how do we appreciate hip hop artists, how do we appreciate rappers, it's important to understand what they go through, you know. Yeah, you don't have to spend your time thinking about what a rapper is literally going through, but what I mean by that is the profession of being an artist is being a cultural worker. These are people who are here to interpret the times for us and give us the sounds of the age and give us a little piece and a glimpse of their own lives within these times. And that's why we love them. That's why we appreciate them. And so because of that, we should always learn that we can't expect them as individuals to always meet our standards. They're people, they're growing, they're evolving. And it's amazing when an artist is able to evolve and you're able to have a long-standing relationship. Nah, boy, and say you have been listening to Nas for over 10 years,
yeah.
and you know, the relationship has been consistent, you know.
But true to that, I don't think there's anyone who can say that. Say I've been listening to Nas and I've been liking every. So the question would be, okay, siyayithetha le nto le. Siyayithetha, and the challenge would be how do we let the average listener nayo icingele we baqala before ndithi
Sure.
ubani work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I think. I think there is a difference between an opinion and a critique.
Okay.
An opinion is a personal view, right?
Yeah.
A critique is also a personal view, but it is
more educated.
It's an informed personal view.
Okay.
So that's the difference between critiquing and simply voicing your opinion. What we're saying here is everybody is entitled to voicing their opinion. However, if we are going to be talking critically, criticizing art, criticizing artists, we have to respect the process of critique enough for us to get into conversations we are actually informed about. That way it avoids us confusing opinion and critique. And I see this on social media everywhere. People blur the two, so that what ends up happening is people are so convinced by their opinion that they feel like they have the right to critique when they haven't looked and reflected at themselves and said, wait a minute, how much do I actually know about what I'm talking about? Do I understand, like we said in the beginning, the artist's intent? Because you cannot critique if you don't know that
intention. Yeah,
exactly. So that's the thing. That's how we get there, Takeza. If the followers out there are really interested in talking critically about music, because we love having these discussions and conversations, they should understand that, okay, expressing your opinion is cool, but if we want to get to some kind of conclusive result, we want to get to an outcome, we want to say, okay, so maybe the debate is, has Nas fallen off, or falling off in the sense of, has his music become stale over the years in comparison to his recent to his older projects? We must, one, understand how are we going to look at that? How are we really assessing what falling off really means? Because to look at anything historically, we've got to know the different pathways into an artist's life, where they were at that time. So if we're gonna measure his skill on It Was Written and look at his skill compared to what he's doing with Magic. We really need to look at growth, you know. We really need to look at his technicality. So then it's easier to have these kinds of conversations when first we've understood that, oh, okay, Nas is at a certain point in his life that this is what he's interested in. This is what he's been doing. This is how he understands his music. So that when you can hear it, it makes more sense to you as a listener. Because the only way we can say an artist has fallen off is if they are failing to hit the target on an intention that they wanted. You know, if what Nas is trying to do is become more lyrical over time, then maybe yes, we could say he's fallen off. But if now he has other interests, if he's working on another angle, if he's trying to be a better songwriter, if he's trying to pick better beats, then we can't judge him according to a lyricist perspective when what the man is trying to do is not lyrically oriented anymore. So that's what we're saying. So in a way then we slowly move as the fans to a way where we're able to listen more and reflect more about these conversations before we just talk and kind of on a certain level disrespect the art or the artists, and as a result disrespect ourselves in the process. Because you know, one thing I think makes this conversation so important, Dageza, is the social media has encouraged a culture of expressing your opinion disrespectfully. You know, and I feel being a troll. And yeah, it's cool and all of that, but if what you want to do is troll, if what you want to do is just shit on a person's art, fine. But if you want to really be taken seriously, if you want to make valid points, if you want your opinion on music to go on to the level of being a critique, and you believe what you're doing is you're looking at, you know, the real intention of the artist, then also there's a way to convey your opinion which doesn't have to come with an insult, you know? You can say, I think the level of Nas's lyricism has deteriorated over the years, without really saying Nas as an individual, there's something wrong
with him,
you know. So this is where the art and the appreciation of the art needs to shift and change. I think we need to learn to appreciate art respectfully. We need to learn how to appreciate art in a more informed way. So I would say that's the conclusion. How do we as the fans learn how to appreciate hip-hop, rappers? One, when you put those headphones on, when you take a dive into that project, first respect the artist first. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Just respect the artist. Don't rush and quickly let your own opinions overwhelm you into like really throwing you off. Sure, if it throws you off, then it's just not for you. But also plug yourself into the experience and allow the artist to lead you to where they wanted to go. Don't allow your expectations to try and drive this thing, because what you're gonna do is a lot of people, when they listen to music, they are listening to the things that they like, and as a result they expect to hear certain things. So now if I'm listening to Magic or King's Disease 2 expecting another It Was Written, expecting Illmatic, I'm looking for certain sonic textures, I'm looking for certain patterns, and now I'm robbing myself of
this experience,
of fully listening to Nas right now, where he is, what he's doing, and at the end of it all saying, oh, okay, this is how it sounds like. So it all boils down to this: opinion only becomes critical theory when we learn how to respect the artist's journey, and when number two, we learn how to understand what the artist is trying to do. So if you're interested in that, those are the fundamentals. And moving forward, if you look at any of the reviews we do, if you look at any of the conversations we take part in,
and we were diverse in our reviews. We had trap there,
you know what I mean?
Boom bap, ispaza sit there. So yeah.
So as the headspace, ungacho Takeza, that we are practicing critique. Here what we're doing is obviously criticizing people and their art, you know.
Yeah.
So it's important to make this episode and to make it known out there that the basis of our criticism, the basis of our critical theory comes from the fact that we care enough and love these artists enough to pay attention, number one, to their own vision, and to number two, to respect their own journey. So that if we're critiquing the Sahas, or if we're critiquing an album, or if we're critiquing a particular individual or an artist in the South African rap space, this is where our critique is coming from. We love you. And because we love you, we've studied you, we feel like we understand your journey because you've allowed yourself and opened up to us. So we respect and understand you and are trying to understand what you're trying to do at each step of the way. And as fans, we'll always voice our opinions when we feel like you've missed the mark.
Yeah. And to make it a conversation there, so that you guys can engage with us, tell us on the comment section, who do you think from now local rappers, who do you think have stayed true to what? But hey, fuck it, I don't care, nobody was it, I'm gonna stay true to myself.
Yeah.
Tell it in the comment section. Who knows, maybe we might do a breakdown on such a rapper in the future, you know. So stay in on the comment section. It's been another episode.
Can I conclude?
Yeah.
Please, Takeza. South Africa has a very narrow musical market, and I think another reason why this conversation is important, if listeners learn how to become informed by the artist's vision, I really feel like we can put the market in our own hands, expand our ears, and make it easy for artists to truly do what they feel like, and or the people who it speaks to gravitate to them. So this one is firstly for the artist. We love you, we support you, and we really just want you to be free to do you. We as the fans do not want to chain you. We do not want you to conform just because you want to make a living. Obviously, we want you to eat. We want you to grow. We want you to flourish. We love you rappers. We love you DJs. We love everybody who puts and contributes to the art form. And what this conversation is about is we truly want to understand how we can give back as the listeners and not expect of you what you do not expect of yourself. It's the Headspace.
It's the Headspace. In 2022, sifuna wonke umuntu abe aqale eqaleni kube grand yonke into. Do you?
Makube mnandi.